You know, when I first met you, I thought that you were supposed to be we're supposed to be Adam and Eve. Turns out we were Romeo and Juliet. Hell of a freaking line, bro.
Oh, hello, and welcome to another episode of Science Fiction Remnant. I am not your evil computer. I am your host, Robert.
This is Captain Chaos, your evil computer.
I knew he'd volunteer to be the evil computer. I knew it. And down here in South Florida, otherwise known as Australia, Med AI scientist Ray.
And you did not forget a South.
I didn't. I got them all this time.
And today, it's going to be amazing. At least I'm going to speak for myself. I don't know about you guys after watching this, but it's going to be amazing because I would never have guessed that when I watched this thing that we're going to cover today, I would have the chance to talk to the creator and director, like Calhoun. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Doing well, thank you. Yeah, I'm surprised as you are. No, I just mean because it's a blast from the past, you know.
Yes.
It says perfectly, man. Perfectly.
Yes. Okay, so let's try to go through our first segment here. Ray, you have a question for everybody.
I do. What have you guys been watching in the sci-fi genre lately?
What? Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. If you have one in particular, you can join in.
Yes.
Not off the top of my head. I got to think about that. I watch a lot of Netflix, but you know.
Nice. Let me go over mine real quick. So I've been on a dust thing for some reason. So I watched one that reminds me of an anime. The name is "You Can Redo Your Life, but You Have to Die First."
Oh God.
You can Google that one out. That was
Sounds
interesting.
tempting.
But yeah, it wasn't my cup of tea. I also watched 43,000 feet. Also, not my cup of tea.
Oh, come on, man. That was good.
Dirty Machines, The End of History. Stealing Time was interesting. 10-minute Time Machine. That was cool. And Skywatch. And that's all I've been watching lately related to sci-fi.
Well, I'll say from the top of my head that I've been playing more than anything, and I've been playing Cyberpunk 2077 and Gears of War.
Nice.
My list is quite short recently. Obviously, Shangri-La Frontier, because that thing never ends. I don't know how that series gets so many episodes, and they spend like 5 episodes on one battle. I'm like, what is this? Where is Goku? He should be in here. 5 episodes on one battle. Guys, insane. And I also caught 10-minute Time Machine on Gio's recommendation, and it was cool. I really like that. We should cut.
Great ending, right? It was a great ending, right?
It was.
Robert didn't like it. Can you guess?
Reminds me of the ending of this show, actually. And a few HFY sci-fi stories. There's a number of HFY channels, but they've all got really interesting, if clickbaity, titles of sci-fi stories. They're all about 40 to 50 minutes each, sometimes a little bit longer. So, you know, it's something to listen to while you're doing something boring. And I find them quite good.
Nice. Okay. So
what about you, Blake? Did you have anything you could pick out?
No, I haven't been watching any sci-fi. I was just looking at my Letterboxd list, and I've watched about 15 movies this month, but they've all just been, you know, the latest type film. I've watched a few things. A Sorcerer from the 70s, but that's not sci-fi. Freaking movie. I'd never seen it. It was great.
Nice. Okay. So with that, we're going to move on to our first segment. We are Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast. We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is Sci-Fi.
And if you're new to the show, this is a segment where we highlight a hashtag that is very dear to us. And the hashtag is This is Sci-Fi. So basically what it is, if you're a creator or if you're a fan and you're posting about that one thing, if you're a creator, that one thing you created, your love, your baby. And if you're a fan, it's that passion for that one, either show or TV or anything, book that is sci-fi related. You're already posting about it on your social medias. All you got to do is add the hashtag This is Sci-Fi to your post and let everybody else enjoy about your thing. And one of the examples that I can post is the fact that we have had people that had fell in love with a new sci-fi story because they are experiencing the passion that either a creator that created that one thing or the fan that loved that one thing posted, and they, there's nothing better than passion. So when someone is exposed to the passion that you have for the sci-fi, that one thing that you love, they become a fan as well. So let's all share. If you love Star Wars, you love Star Trek, it doesn't matter. If it's a sci-fi, it could be a book, it could be an experience. Share it with us and use the hashtag This is Sci-Fi. And if you want to share also in a more intimate way with the show, we do have a hotline that you can call and you can give us your passion. We'll play it in the next episode. And the hotline is 1-305-563-6334. Okay. And with that, we go on to the next segment.
Shout out.
And for these shoutouts, I want to give a special standing ovation to JJ Hunsecker and Star Jammer 117 in our Discord channel for keeping the party up. Thank you guys. And a warm welcome to Cacao, Awal Adames Franklin, Dorkiedorkk, Nacho, and Krla. Welcome to the Discord. I hope that we can make it weird enough for you guys to stay. And that's all for today's shoutouts.
Nice. Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready.
Hell yes.
I am ready. I'm usually not, but I am ready. This thing is amazing. So before we move on,
is that a comment? Admiral Happy Endings?
Yeah, this is Robert approved. This is Robert approved. So Ray, do we have a plot maybe? Sorry.
I'm a little bit disappointed with the web this week because it's very confusing. There was another TV show from Canada called Continuum, which started in 2012, the same year that this little gem started appearing. Originally as a web series. It's now been converted into a movie, which apparently lands a lot better than the web series. But I've watched the movie, of course. And so I can find tons of stuff on the other Continuum. But there isn't actually a wiki page, which is a sad thing, because I thought there was a wiki page for everything in the absolute entire universe. But maybe this is special in the fact that it doesn't have one. But we do have like a two-liner, which I can pass along to the listeners. And it goes like this. A beautiful young woman awakens aboard an adrift spaceship with no memory of who she is or how she got there, and at the mercy of the ship's mysterious computer. Nobody wants to be at the mercy of a computer. It's just not a good thing. I've watched too many shows where it's just gone terribly badly. So she's going to have troubles.
Awesome.
Oh, yes. And before we continue, actually, I want to let everybody know that if you scan that QR code anyways, you can find the right one in any preferred platform. And that's the way to go. So you don't get spoilers if you haven't watched it, which I doubt you should. Like, you should have watched this. This is like, wow, bro. Scan it there, right? Watch it, pause us, and then come back so you can join the conversation.
Yeah, we are a long format, so we'll be waiting. You can pause us right now and go watch now. Believe me, you'll thank me.
It's the
So
best way anyway. So if you have a counter argument, it's just too late to give it to me. Anyways.
awesome, awesome. So I guess we could move on to the very first question that we asked in the show. And I am so curious because this thing, I have very fond memories of this. And it's one of those things that I keep on rewatching. Um, I'm sad to know that I never knew this was on Tubi, but it's still okay because I have those links for the YouTube, and I was watching. In my perspective, was season 1 and season 2. So I've been. This is one of those things that I rewatch. I want to say at least once a year, because I really, really enjoyed it. So, but thank you for bringing that up to us. That there was a Tubi, and it's a lot more convenient to watch it that way.
Yeah. Did you ask a question in there? I'm sorry. I'm having some connection issues. Occasionally, I'm getting a thing that says you're not connected. So I caught part of that. Did you ask a question in your statement?
No, and I do apologize for that. But the question that I normally ask in the show at the beginning is, which I'm very curious to hear everybody's thoughts in here, is like, how old were you when you watched the thing we're covering, and what was your very first impression? Now, that kind of applies a lot more to me because I've been watching this for a while now since it was released. But for Ray and Captain Chaos here, I believe this was today.
I was today years old. Yes.
So
No, I watch it. I watch it when you mentioned it to me actually, like a couple of weeks.
a couple of weeks.
And a follow-up question that I have for that is because we can make actually a good question for Blake here is how long has this been written, man? Like this was great writing.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, we wrote it back in. We produced it in 2010, and so I wrote it around that same time, around 2009, 2010.
Nice.
That's back when web series. I had done a previous web series called Pink, about a female assassin. It's still on YouTube as well, but we've since converted that into a movie also. Just
Nice.
this was back before YouTube was really YouTube that we know it today. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. We didn't know how to make money, and so we just were making shows, and they were literally, it was serialized content, but they were 3-5 minute long episodes. Today people don't really want that. Today people want, at least, I mean, I'm talking about narrative fiction. All the YouTube has turned into, as you guys know, influencers and just how-to videos and podcasts to a degree. But yeah, to answer your question, we wrote it in 2009-ish, and then we shot it all in 2010. And it was almost all visual effects, and so it took a long time to release because it was just a ton of work in post-production.
Oh, and
But it
I
was
mean,
worth it. I mean,
right?
the results of the holographic controls on all the equipment, that was awesome.
Yeah, that's obviously inspired by Star Wars. I'm a Star Wars kid. That's the movie that, like a lot of people, I'm a Gen Xer, so it's a lot of people that, older millennials, Gen X, were all, Star Wars, early Spielberg, all that kind of stuff, George Lucas. And so, yeah, I mean, I shout out to Chad Briggs. He did all the visual effects in the show, and they really busted their butt. We had a very limited budget. I mean, super low budget, but I think based on the time and the tools we had and the money, we did a pretty good job. Some effects, as the filmmaker, you look back and you kind of, you don't like certain things. That's human nature, but a lot of it still holds up pretty well today, I think.
Agreed. That you described there, it's like an overcriticalness that we have with our own creations most of the time. Ray can relate to that. Robert can relate to that. I can relate to that. Absolutely.
Yeah, you always want to learn.
It was the way that they were understated. That it like a lot of visual effects they try to go over the top with them,
Yeah.
and they just become too much. But it was the way that it was so understated. It's like it would be to be natural. It needs to be understated because it's just part of the furniture. And I think that you got it right in that you didn't go over the top with it. You kept it understated, and that made it feel more natural. And I think that was the way to go. I think it really worked well.
No, thank you. That was our idea because we knew we didn't have the budget to trick out a spaceship like, for instance, in Interstellar. Of course, Interstellar hadn't been out when this show came out, but we didn't have that kind of budget. I mean, the comparison would be maybe Alien or Aliens. We knew we couldn't create a spaceship like that. And so what we did is we went for a very minimalist style, and then the controls came out of nowhere. One of my inspirations was the original spaceship in the Planet of the Apes movie, the original Planet of the Apes from 1968, because we went for kind of a retro future vibe. It's supposed to not really be at any time per se, but that really played into the way we did the art direction and the production design. We built the ship, and but purposely left it very minimalist so we could add the visual effects digitally later.
I like the Storage World buckets. That gave it a real homey feel.
We shopped a lot at IKEA, I think. That spaceship, and it's funny, I never put out this behind the scenes, and I've been thinking about doing it I have a YouTube channel. That spaceship it was a pretty amazing piece of, it was huge. We really created that. We built that. And Eric Whitney was the production designer, and he won several awards back in the day. I think we won some Streamies, some IAW TV awards. Streamies are still around today. They mainly go to, the guys like Mr. Beast and, those guys these days. They don't really go. They go after more of the YouTube, this generation more than they do the past, the storytelling type, or more the reality TV. It seems like more today. But either way, that spaceship was crazy, and it was about 50 or 60 feet long and about 30 feet wide. Wow. And all those rooms were built. Although we did build mainly just one, and then we would redress it to shoot all the scenes out. So we shot the whole show in 9 days, which is crazy.
Wow, 9 days.
Yeah,
was
we
that
used
both
2
seasons?
cameras. What's that?
Was that for both seasons?
Yeah, we shot it all at one time. We shot it like a movie.
Wow.
We didn't shoot it over, but then there was 2 seasons because we needed like a year in between to finish all the visual effects. Because every shot when you look out a window, it's just green screen, and so we had to like fill in everything. It was really daunting. It was really daunting, but in the end, that's what makes it fun. I think just to tackle that kind of project, even on a very low budget.
And one question that I might have is like you said that you shot it as a film. Was
Film style.
Film style. Was there a choice or a decision on how it was initially released, or this was the intended from the very get-go?
Yeah. Again, back then we were doing web series, and so we planned on doing it, and just like we did, excuse me, we released it weekly for, I think there was 10 episodes in season 1 and like 10 or 11 in season 2. We released it weekly for 10 weeks.
Wow.
At the time.
So Gio, you see there what my experience was. When you watch the first, and I know Gio here, out of the all of those here, he's the one who's actually started with the actual YouTube link, and then I had him move on to the Tubi link. But imagine, Gio, you watch the first one, you get hooked, you gotta wait a week.
Gio hates that. He hates waiting for shows.
Well, it was pretty interesting because we actually structured it almost like, and we did this with our other show called Pink, and then we did another show called Exposed at the time too. We did that one for Warner Brothers, and we structured it almost like a comic book or a graphic novel, in these small little bite-sized moments with these big cliffhangers. And the one thing that you lose on Tubi that is just and we released it on Vimeo as all together, so people didn't have to watch it individually. And we left the intro. There's an intro for every episode, and the titles we worked really hard on. Those titles tie in to each episode, and they're real funny, or they're real what's
Yes.
the right word? They're kind of clever, the way that we came up with them. Like one of
Meta
them was,
humor.
yeah, one of them was Han Soloist. So like,
Yeah.
obviously playing on Star Wars, and at this point, Tipton's alone on the ship, and just little things like that that you don't have on Tubi, because the one bit of feedback we got when we put it all together, and I get it, no one wanted to watch 20 intros as you're watching the whole show.
Yeah.
And so we had to go in and re-edit it and cut out all the intros, because again, it was originally created serialized in short little snippets, 3 to 5 minutes. But when you put them all together, it got a little bit monotonous hearing the same theme music every 5 minutes, if that makes sense.
I have a question about the combination of the web episodes into a movie. Did you find that the tension sort of went like this because it had all these little cliffhangers?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, when I say earlier we shot it like a movie, what I meant was, traditional TV, you shoot it along the way, you have like a week or two. I mean, you might be 3 or 4 weeks in advance, but you shoot a whole show in like 6 days usually. And then you rotate to, I'm talking about like network TV or cable TV. And then another director comes in and does the next episode, and they spend, whatever it is, 2 to 4 weeks on post-production. Here, because we're so small, we shot everything all at one time like you do with a movie. And so that's why we condensed it all down. But then I knew the release was going to be serialized. And so the structure for the movie is what you're saying. It's a little bit like being on a roller coaster, but you get a lot more cliffhangers throughout the story than you normally would in a 90-minute movie, typically speaking. Normally you've got, the beats along the way in a film. And so here you have it a lot more, but I think it still works. And the Tubi link has been really pretty popular. We had it on there for about a year, I think now, a year and a half. And so we've gotten some good, we found a whole new audience that, again, web series aren't that popular on YouTube anymore. And so that's why we decided to, we sold the show on Vimeo for a while. And then we decided, hey, let's try Tubi. And it's been good, because you're getting ads on there, but you're already used to that if you've watched it on YouTube. So
Yeah, they've also got it for sale on Prime Video.
yeah, we had really good success on Amazon back in 2017 to 2018. But what they did is I don't know if you guys follow how we, make a living with distribution filmmakers. It's tricky. And so Amazon was a big proponent of that, and a component of that back in 2017, 2018. And then they got too much content, which I hate that word, but they got too many bad shows. And so this is the feedback that I got. And so it used to be on Prime for free, and a ton of shows for free, in quotes. You had to be a Prime member. But then they took all the shows that weren't basically Hollywood or big expensive indie shows off of the SVOD, which is a subscription, and made them
Oh, what a shame.
TVOD, which is transactional. And so it's just a VOD rental or purchase. And we still get a few of those, but since it's on Tubi, I say, hey, go watch it on Tubi. We still get revenue from Tubi with the ads. Yeah, it's on Amazon, and it's on Vimeo as well. And then it's still on YouTube, although it hadn't been updated on YouTube in a long time. The new stuff, I should make a point too. The Tubi release, we remastered everything. We redid the color correction. I fixed a lot of the sound issues we had back in the day. And then I used a lot of tools today that we didn't have back in 2010 to denoise it and just to really clean things up. Kind of like you hear about on a much smaller scale, but James Cameron going back and redoing, The Abyss or whatever for the 4K Blu-ray release or whatever. We did the same thing on a much smaller scale. So that was a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I did notice the audio was really clear and crisp.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We had a professional sound mix, but there's just tools that we have now. I mean, it's amazing what video and film post-production and production, for that matter, how much has advanced in the 14, 15 years now since then. I mean, we shot it on HD on 2 Canon 7D cameras. And at the time that had just come out, that's when the DSLR revolution was hitting. Before that, we were all shooting on either big beta cams, big, I don't even know which cameras we used. We had some Vericams, we had Betacam, but they weren't affordable for low budget jobs. And then the DSLRs came along and for a while, and even to this day, everybody uses mirrorless cameras now, but the DSLRs were really a revolution and allowed us to make a show that I think still holds up, even though it was just shot on HD and not 4K. Although we have upscaled it to 4K since then, but that's a whole nother story.
I think that statement, I would have to agree 100% based on a comment that I hear from our very own Captain Chaos. I think I trained him well because he wasn't, when we started the show, he was not necessarily a sci-fi fan. And I don't know, Ray, if you remember those classical movies from like back then, it kind of bothered the special effects. But this one over here, is
Oh, great.
at least from my perspective, and I know I have a conversation with you when we were doing the watch party on Discord, is that it holds up. It really does. Considering, and we were like, what was the comment you were saying, Gio? I mean, this came out in 2012.
It stands through time, man. It stands through time perfectly. It's timeless.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. Yeah.
I think that Blake did like he exploited all the resources you could out of practical effects to a maximum. So it comes out so natural. It looks just perfect. You know, he makes the environment very credible. I got a lot of vibes too when you look at like the corridors in the ship. It's
Mhm.
really Space Odyssey 2001 because the minimalistic style on the ship, which was amazing and perfect. Because I was like, this is great because it doesn't make it difficult to believe the scenario at all.
Yeah, those corridor shots, I still use those in whenever I put out a demo reel, even though it's 12 years old, I still use those because those were all practical. That's real. And all the
Yes.
lights in the wall, the strips, we designed the ship to be our lighting, so we didn't really use any other lights in the show. I mean, when we went in for close-ups, we'd bring in some smaller lights and do just a little
Yep.
bit of accent lighting here and there. But the way we designed everything was to where we could. Well, that's one reason we could shoot the whole show in under 10
Mhm.
days. But we built all that into the set, so that was really important and really pretty cool that, again, our production designer Eric Whitney was able to do that.
Not only that, but I mean, it's such a wonderful job that there is so many other applications for that place that you have created now as a team. You know, because I mean, another show can want to use it. A music video could be used out of that. There's so
Oh
many
yeah,
applications that it's become an asset, and it's a lot of hard work. I'm sure that you guys put into it for sure.
yeah, we did save the sets for a long time, and actually, it's funny you say music videos because it was hired out to do some music videos on.
Hell
But
yes, of
but
course.
eventually, they were so big, we had to end up getting rid of them eventually, which was a really hard thing to do. Really hard.
You needed
Uh,
the space.
We needed the space. I mean, they were literally the sides of the ship were about 8, 9 feet tall, and they were all about 8 feet across. And so we had about 30 or 40 of them, and so we had them in a warehouse space, but it ended up being too expensive and too costly to keep it over time. So as bad as I
yeah,
wanted to, we kept the bed for a long time too. That the chamber, whatever you want to call it,
the
the
monkey.
the cryo chamber, yeah, or whatever.
Oh yes, yes, also cool, man.
Yeah, that was hard to get rid of that too. But that's just kind of the way it goes. But yeah, thank you. That was I think that lent a level of what's the right word, production value to the show.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and you create a special connection with these things, this
Yes.
scenery, because I mean, it's like your place to work, and you have to change it. You know, you go
Mm.
there for a long extended period of time, so you put a lot of effort and dedication to this show. It's not like the people that watch it. Like I got to watch it in both places. I finished it on Tubi, but I was watching the episodes, and I mean, it's funny when you mentioned you had to cut them out because with those cliffhangers, I could almost even see like at least like one image popping out, fading in and out with the title of the next episode. You know,
Mm.
the intro, like it flows perfectly.
Yes.
That's the beautiful thing about how it was written, the ups and downs. And I do get that like it's hard to get rid of the props and stuff like that because it's like it's your creation and you're seeing it in real dimensional way here. It's right next to you. I get it.
No, that's it exactly. It is, but you gotta move on.
So I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to ask questions because we definitely do. And I guess I'll start. Um, I want to say thank you to Blake because it was something that I discovered on YouTube. Just like you said, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. It was when YouTube was a thing that is not what we have now.
Robert
And I
said just that too, right before the show. It's true.
exactly. And it was such a wonderful find that I think if you are a sci-fi fan and if you're listening to the show, you are a sci-fi fan. If you have not experienced this by now, you have to. And it brings memories for me because this is this wonderful thing that I discover on web series back then. Like Blake mentioned, there were a thing back then that we don't have that many of those now. But it was just a wonderful experience and a sci-fi story. Um, so where I'm leading to this is the question that I'm going to ask is I'm going to get the opportunity and I know Ray, I'm sorry you didn't have the same experience. I wish that you had the same experience I had with this because it's wonderful. But and of course Captain Chaos here was too young for for it. But um, the question that I was going to ask is it in the whole
Hey,
story.
hey, for the record, I was like 17, 18 already. It's just that I didn't have a computer or internet. I had to go to Cyber Cafe, so like you can't imagine. I'm not on YouTube much. I just like downloading torrents in Pirate Bay
YouTube wasn't
and
the
music and LimeWire with a bunch of viruses probably.
Yeah, the YouTube was not back then what it is today. But the question that I'm asking is uh, the ending, right? Let's go straight to the ending. That's when I kind of woke up as to the story. We didn't quite have an idea where this was going, and I was just hooked
Oh man.
for that reason.
I had two comments when I saw the ending. The first one was the Matrix has you,
Yes.
and the second one was VR escape rooms really have come a long way, haven't they?
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of the Hotel California is what it really is. I mean, it could be purgatory. It's we have all the different books we show in there for that are kind of
Yes, yes. I
subtle
actually wrote down about one of them.
little metaphors in there. So I mean, I leave it. If you're asking what the ending means, or the ending is really kind of ambiguous on purpose. Some people like that, some people
Yes.
don't. But I think she's trapped and she's got to try to do it again. So.
Yep.
Originally, that wasn't the original ending. The original ending was the ship blows up and they all die.
Oh, perfect for Robert.
And that's where that's kind of where the Romeo and Juliet line came from.
That's what I thought it was going to happen.
After we
actually.
were working with, and after we were working with, we decided that we didn't want to end it on that big of a downer, because people were just really invested, and so that's with.
Well, Blake, you should understand that our dear Robert over here, he has the moniker Admiral Happy Endings. See, we have a Captain Chaos,
really?
So we needed to have an admiral who was above him in the order of things. So we created Admiral Happy Endings because if it doesn't have a happy ending, Robert doesn't want to know about it. He can't deal.
You want to know somebody that invests in himself in characters? That guy.
So I think he understands when we say Robert approve what that actually means.
Yes.
But I do love how you played out like in this thought experiment that a virus doesn't necessarily have to be something completely uh, completely limited to a virtual realm because the computer in one way was manipulating them constantly and retaining
Right.
information using the arts of manipulation like a mind virus. keeping them at odds with each other all the time. Even when the information was dubious or when the situation was too obvious, they were not capable of really oversee that and see that the computer was trying to play them. Although I got confused at the last third when they were trying to play the computer and the computer still turned them against each other. It was interesting, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's the twist and turns of the story that I hope people like, and they did back in the day when they watched it. And I mean, there's suspension of disbelief, and then there's a lot of obviously HAL 9000 in there as well.
Yeah.
Although what's interesting is people mention that 2001: Space Odyssey, and I like that movie, but honestly, I've seen that movie like 2 or 3 times in my life, and I like it. I don't know that I ever sat through the whole thing at one time, just because it's so trippy. But again, I like it. But those HAL scenes in that movie, talking to Dave and all that, were probably in the back of my mind, but they weren't like a direct inspiration for those scenes, which is
I thought it was
interesting.
more of an Easter egg when Danielle, the AI, told like, "I'm sorry, I cannot do that. It's not that simple."
That is
I
sort
was
of
like, "Hey!"
kind of an homage there. I mean, it's got a mix of I mean, Alien is in there for sure. I mean, growing up, Alien and Aliens was one of my favorite movies, and you got the strong female lead. You got Ripley, I've always loved Ripley, Sigourney Weaver, and then later on, and I mean, James Cameron, his movies were a big inspiration. And I like Lawrence Kasdan, the way he's a writer and a director. And I love how he would write dramatic situations, but then put some sly humor in there too. So all those different things kind of came together and created that storyline.
Speaking of which, Blake, I always have to ask this question, but have you seen Alita Battle Angel, that 2019 movie?
I'm familiar. That's the James Cameron and Robert Rodriguez. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think I saw it, but I don't remember. I don't remember it very well, so it didn't leave a very good impression on me. But I do remember it, obviously.
You want me to tell you something curious and funny about that series and yours? Is that I thought of that series when I started watching them by episodes, because they did the same thing with the animated series. There? Yeah, how it was presented. It was episode by episode, very short on YouTube until somebody put them all together.
Oh, okay. Right.
And I thought of that show when I saw that, because Robert is the one in here between me and I'm not sure Ray used to watching web novels. I am not at all. Like, Robert was the one that got me into them, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a passion of me. Like, now I think it's kind of reminds me of what Ray does with HSY novels on YouTube.
Yeah.
Kind of like that. So you guys, I wish I can just imprint my the experience that I have when watching this thing. But do you guys watch this film? And of course we'll get to this later in the show as to what was your experience on it. But were you like full of questions? I mean, when you watch this, I know that there was a lot of questions, and then some questions got answered. Was that your experience through watching this film? And if you have unanswered questions, what were those, if you can recall?
You want to go first, Ray?
The immediate thing that struck me about this show was that it really harked me back to a couple of episodes ago where we covered Shadows over Soul, where we actually played the game. And strangely enough, the setup for the Shadows over Soul game that we played on the pod was very similar to what happened in Continuum, with them waking up on a ship and weird things are happening and people have lost their memories, so they can't remember what the hell they were supposed to be doing. And that was basically the setup for the Shadows over Soul game memories that we played. So it was like, hang on, have we done this just recently? So, it's kind of tripping me out there a little bit.
It was a great component to get us into the lore and the storytelling,
Yeah. So I think in my perspective, and I want to tell you a little bit about my perspective on this web series. I think what grabbed me, and I don't know if you guys would agree with this or it was just the same case for you. What grabbed me as a web series was the fact that here we have just basically what we just read as the plot for this. We have a young woman walking up on a ship, not knowing who she was or where she was. And I want to know.
Captain Overthinker is his other name.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I mean, they did a great job of creating that, and I think that part of the utility of keeping them at odds. I mean, they don't hide the fact that there's trouble with the AI because the AI starts very, very weird, and it's very evident about just being deflective whenever some uh, responsibility is being thrown at it. So I think that the AI doesn't try to hide it at any time neither. It's just misunderstood, you know. And they create this false sense of security very easy in the narrative because of that. It keeps you hooked, and I think that that's the utility of having short episodes too, that keeps you on the edge of the seat the whole movie when you watch it on the Tubi link. You know?
Yeah.
What's funny is, we weren't really thinking AI back then. I mean, AI, of course, I thought of AI from Terminator, I guess, but
Yes,
we were
kind of.
thinking more quantum computing and that kind of thing. I mean, AI is
Well,
on everybody's on the AI ideas today, of course, but back again, you just have to go back to our mindset back then. It was more, we
different.
didn't really know what it was. It was just some sort of advanced technology. Have you
Yes,
guys seen
yes.
the movie called Passengers with Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence?
I think it's on our list.
Yeah, it has a similar setup to our show, and obviously a huge budget, but it's two people stuck on a ship and they don't really know why they're there, and it's an interesting. Check that one out if I liked it a lot. Um, pretty cool, high concept sci-fi.
Nice. So yeah, we have it on our list. Eventually we'll cover it on the show as well because we have a lot of people have recommended that film as well. Um, I'm slightly concerned because I'm happy. Admiral Happy Ending here, so I hope that is one of those that I can. Yeah, but yeah, it's I seen some of the trailers and we have it on our list. To
Yeah,
watch.
I mean, the reason I brought it up really is it has a similar idea, and the idea of having amnesia is not necessarily. I mean, just like any movie or TV show, they've kind of all been done one way or the other. It's the way you do the spin of it, and it's the characters you create and how you make the story unfold that makes it different. Or hopefully, that's the idea anyway.
Yeah, and now that you mention it, I didn't really thought about it, but yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like the same concept on the idea of the two um, people waking up. So yeah, most likely I would if I like this, I probably like that as well.
I think you probably would.
Awesome. Um, so Gio, today you watched it. Um, what was your experience on this film in contrast with other things that I have made you watch? And I was really
Well,
nervous. I was really
no,
nervous.
no. I'll tell you. No, 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 no. This show was great, and I'll tell you, one of the parts that was like a no turning point for me is when she started confessing that she's a programmer, and then she started talking about the philosophical and psychological complexities of how Danielle is made to our guy Tippin. And it's basically it's crazy. I'm like, what? And like, not even he doesn't understand jack shit of what he says. But when she explained it very clearly, and it's like, wow, okay. So, and I mean, even though there's a lot of short episodes, the ending of the movie is a grand finale. If you think about it, I think that it was a poetic ending because it's open, so you can make what you want. I got a lot of like Inception vibes when I was watching it. I was like, whoa, or like the Matrix vibes. Like you don't like in which level of reality was this actually happen? All of this.
It's funny you mentioned that because when I watched, and
Or
again,
their TV.
my experience is slightly different, but when I watched that final episode on YouTube, I right away went to the very first episode because I'm like, wait a minute,
Yes. Yes.
wait a minute. Ray, again, I'm gonna say the same question to you because I was really nervous compared to many things I made you watch. Very nervous. So your thoughts?
Well, Blake wouldn't know, but obviously my co-hosts know that I'm a writer myself, so I'm always looking at story construction, internal consistency, and all those sorts of things. So while I was watching this, I was trying to analyze it on multiple different levels. How it presented, the vibe and the feel, which I thought landed really well. It's actually quite surprising. There's not a lot of well-lit starships out there in science fiction. And the reason for that is that well-lit starships look a little bit cardboardy, which is why most of them are really dark. But you went with the bugger it. We've actually got lights on this ship, so we're going to use them, which I thought was I wouldn't call it a brave move. It makes sense. Why wouldn't you have the ship well lit? So yeah, it had that sort of well lit vibe, which I really appreciated. And as you said earlier, it also had the there's no panels here that are set up in a particular fashion. It all just comes up as virtual controls. So you have one panel and it can do everything, and you just got to tell the computer what you want to be able to access, and then it starts happening. And some of the later episodes where she's doing the diagnostics on the ship, she's sneakily changing things around so she can set up the self-destruct. But they look really pretty. I really liked. Again, I said that I like the controls on the equipment, like the microwave and the and the little safe for the gun that had the virtual controls, which were the laid back. But then you also had the controls for the ship, which had all the bells and whistles. So I thought that juxtaposition worked really well. There was a couple of things that I sort of scratched my head about, and I'd probably have to go back and watch it again to really take in the details. So I apologize if my questions are only partly formed, and you can correct me on this if you feel keen to do so. But there was a couple of things that happened, and I was sort of scratching my head about. They were talking about a virus. She goes over to the other ship, and obviously it's a Chekhov's gun moment where she shows that shooting holes in the side of the ship makes the other ship blow up. And that was to put the fear into the viewer that if she does that on her ship, it will also blow up. So I could see how that was a whole Chekhov's gun kind of scenario to set that up. But they were talking about, it could be like a virus that kills people because there's 2 dead people over here. And he's
the computer said that.
Okay. But he was worried about her coming back and bringing a virus or something back. And then the moment she gets back, he hugs her in the spacesuit. And I'm thinking, like, hang on, why would you hug somebody you were concerned was carrying a pathogen while they haven't even taken their spacesuit off yet?
Well, I think if I remember correctly, again, I know it's my show, but it's been a while since I've really watched it in detail. I'm pretty sure that was actually what we were talking about earlier. That was the computer lying to him, making him suspicious. So he didn't really believe that, but she's saying that because she knows that Reagan is now trying to destroy the ship. She's trying to protect herself from being destroyed. I think that's what you're talking about. I could be wrong about that. I know the scene you're talking about when they come over and he hugs her. That's one of the moments where you think maybe they could potentially get together, and then of course she runs away and goes and screams in the shower after that.
Yep. Not only that, but I think that it made a great argument for how easy was keeping them at odds.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, it creates a big doubt: are they acting it at this point just for the
Oh,
sake
with
of
them?
keeping the player played? Yeah, because for me, it was a whole situation of player being played, player being AI, and they're really playing the AI by just giving all these emotional reactions to one another, which Reagan kind of explains to him on that when she says that she's the programmer, that it has a high response to emotional communication. So at that point, I'm guessing, are they acting this out already or not? Because when the
Yeah,
paper passing started,
I can't remember
it was like,
where in the story that takes place, but eventually when he gives her the note and then they do
yes,
go act, they definitely are acting then when he like slaps her in the hallway and all that.
Yeah.
He's trying to, really play their trick on the computer at that point.
absolutely.
And so that's where some suspension of disbelief is needed. But hey, it's a show, it's a TV, it's a movie,
Yes, yes, yes.
I think the biggest suspension of disbelief had to be the computer can only look in one room at a time.
Yeah.
If it's a quantum computer, it should have stupid number of threads and be able to
Yeah. I
do
mean,
hundreds of things simultaneously.
it could look anywhere at one, we definitely talked about that, but it could look anywhere. But when it was busy, so to speak, it was in one section. Then it had sensors everywhere, but it wasn't like watching, if that makes sense. So
Mm,
AI today would be able to do it, but this is 14 years ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and again, this is me, overthinking.
Overthinking.
Overthinking. It does make sense to me because of the ending. The question is, was she really not watching?
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah,
Based on the ending, I can go back and say, she could have been acting that she's not responding.
I think that I got a feeling that up until the point that the computer told the lieutenant that she was the programmer of said virus,
right.
that the computer was sort of playing that she was against her, but she actually wasn't. It was sort of an act to keep her on her toes, kind of thing. There was a lot of manipulation going on between the computer and the two humans,
Oh, for sure, 100%. Yep.
and that came through in the dialogue, which I thought was well done. That I don't know. It kind of felt like an inner monologue would have helped here, where because anytime that people talk to themselves, the computer could be listening. So
For sure.
there's an old RPG called Paranoia. And it reminded me a lot of that. How Paranoia works is it's actually a competitive RPG where you're competing against the other players, and there's an overriding computer that's listening to you at all times. And if anything that you say can be considered to be rebelling against the computer will have you killed and activate a clone of your character. And you only have a certain number of clones, so you have a certain number of lives. And a lot of the times the players are manipulating the other characters to say something that sounds rebellious so they can convince the computer to kill you, because the person who's got clones left at the end is the winner.
Interesting. Okay.
And it had that vibe.
Yeah.
It definitely had that
Yeah. I
vibe.
mean,
So I found that
obviously
cool.
there was times that they would go and try to hide what they were saying, or they would say something, under their breath, or they'd go into the water and, hide
Mm.
from the computer. And so they figured that part out. But yeah, there's a lot of manipulation. That's, I think, kind of keeps it interesting to, you don't know who's manipulating who, especially as the story really gets going later.
Another thing that I wanted to mention is we all know that creating a thing like the one that we're watching, there's a lot of I actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, Blake, but I kind of envision this as when you're cooking. You have to have the right recipes, the right amount, the correct temperature, and the correct amount of time to create something in the kitchen. So there's a lot of things. You have the writing, you have um, the the editing, you have now one of the things that we haven't talked about is the actors. How was it? And this is a question that we probably have asked before whenever we have directors on the show. It's like your experience, because if you got the wrong person, it would have been a complete different show. So not sure how was the casting of it, and how was your um from the moment that you got to decide, okay, we need to have these people, how we're going to pick them, and to the experience of working with them during the filming of this thing.
Yeah, I always say, and I think it's fairly widely said, that half or maybe more of directing is finding the right actors. Because then once you got the right actors, you don't really need to direct them that much. You just need to say, do it faster or do it slower, or work on the camera blocking, that kind of thing. And so Melanie Murkowski played Reagan, and Brad Hawkins played Tipton. And I had never worked with Melanie before, and we went through a pretty extensive casting with her. I auditioned probably, I don't know, 20 actresses, and then narrowed it down to about 5 or 10, and then and then narrowed it down to her after about a 3 or 4 month process probably. And then Brad, I knew he was actually in Pink, the other web series I mentioned. He played a bad guy assassin in that show. We'll leave it at that. But
I was watching a bit of it. Looks good.
Yeah, he's great. They're both very good actors, very accomplished actors. Melanie's from Canada, and although I think she lives in LA now, and then Brad is from Texas, where we shot Continuum, and then the voice is an actress named Taryn O'Neill, and she actually was the one who originally recommended me to Melanie. And at the time, Taryn O'Neill was a really well-known actress in the web series world. She'd done a bunch of web series, and that's how I met her. And I think I cast her first, and then I cast the other roles. But she has this really awesome voice, as you heard throughout the show.
Oh yes.
And then the kid who played the kid computer was also in my show Pink, and she played a child version of the female assassin in that show. That show's about a female assassin looking for love, is the way I always say.
Nice.
It's a
That's what happened to Matilda in The Professional after she grows up, huh?
Yeah, there's inspiration from that for sure. That
Hell
show
yeah.
that show is still out there too. But at any rate, yeah, it was super important. And then Melanie, she was amazing from because she really was in every scene. Brad wasn't in every scene. And there was one day shooting, we actually shot 17 pages in one day, which is just freaking insane. But we were shooting with 2 cameras, and Melanie was just knocking out the dialogue because she's talking to the computer, who was actually a PA on set, reading the lines back to her.
Nice.
But yeah, I think, man, I'm glad you brought that up because, yeah, in the end, you'll hear people say, and I think this is true, just getting a movie or a TV show made is a miracle. It really is. I mean, it's so unbelievably hard. I mean, today everybody has access to the tools. I mean, you can shoot, a great movie on your phone now today. And, but that doesn't mean you can put it all together and make it, tell a story and take it to that next level. And so, yeah, all those things come together to make even a bad show or a bad movie. It's still it's still a miracle that it got together, because in the end, a lot of it is subjective, of course. But yeah, the actors are a key component to that, and they really made it come to life.
Yeah, and I wanted to speak about that because I think, in my perspective, they did an amazing job, in making me believe. From the computer, that was an amazing voice. Even the child computer, and I think we talked about this on our watch party. It conveyed that creepiness that it was ambiance to what we were experiencing. It played a very important part on surrounding us with the story.
The reason that the little girl voice was creepy, I found, was because when you have a little girl's voice, you expect little girl logic and little girl speech patterns, and
right.
It didn't have those.
Right.
It had adult speech patterns with a little girl's voice. That's what makes it creepy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had just had my first kid when the show had come out. My wife and I just had our first child, and I think she was I can't remember. She was born in 2009. I think she was maybe 6 months old when we were shooting this, and so when I was writing it, I had just had my first child, and so I think a lot of that kid stuff was in my mind as I was writing it, and so that that was part of the whole thing with her and knowing and wanting to know who the child was and being the mom character in the end. So, but yeah, I agree with you completely. The kid voice talking like an adult made it creepy in a good way.
Yeah.
In the good
Yeah, no,
sci-fi way.
I really appreciated that. It was one of those things that throws the viewer off at the very beginning, and I think you want to keep the viewer thrown off in a story like this, where
Yeah.
things keep flipping and people do strange things, but then you realize, okay, they're doing that because they've remembered something, and you start to link those things together. And I think the real turning point was when the computer virus, the code that was running the ship, admitted that the lieutenant had written it. Reagan had written the
code.
the code. Yeah, and that was like the big flip. And it's like, okay,
Right.
And I have to ask you this question because you know the answer, and of course we don't always have, or don't often have, somebody who can answer these questions on with us.
Yeah.
And so I have to take this opportunity. We ask these questions anyway, and we bandy around what the answer might be, but actually getting an answer is special. So I'm going to have to ask you this question. But does the daughter actually exist, or is the daughter the program, the virus? That I got the feeling that the daughter was actually the virus.
I mean, it's a good question. In my mind, she does exist, but that she could also be the virus. But it wasn't. It was made. It was made based on something, a memory in her mind from reality, or from her real life, back on the
Well,
home planet.
it was just that she didn't remember the daughter. Now, somebody who you're bonded with, like a child, it would be very hard to forget them. And the fact that she couldn't remember it all made me think, maybe the code is the daughter. Like, she created this sentient thing that was trying to destroy all the computer systems. She created it, and then that was her daughter, and it was just projecting.
Hey, I like your
idea.
idea there. I mean, that very well. If that's how it is to you, then that's how it is. I mean, no, I think there's for me, it's a combination of both. I do think the daughter exists, and we see the daughter at the very end with the sunflowers, her hands, and then at the beginning we see the sunflowers, and that's why she mentions that sunflowers are. I think she said it's her favorite word. That's kind of a throwback to Citizen Kane with Rosebud,
But then you went and screwed all at it right at the very end, showing that it was just a simulation. She had to keep going and do it again, which made me think, no, the daughter doesn't exist because it's all a simulation.
Well,
so,
yeah, no, I mean, I think you can look at it both ways. But I mean, again, I like your analysis. I mean, to me, she does exist, but we don't know how long Reagan has been on the ship trying to get out of there.
Exactly.
It could be a millennium,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and Ray, we have talked about this in previous episodes. The reason why I feel this story is so successful, the way that I look at it, and why our audience should go watch this multiple times, like I have, is the fact that we have talked about how, like, books are usually better than movies because they leave the imagery to the imagination of the reader. So whenever we have something like the story that we watched today, Continuum, where it actually leaves a lot out to the audience to fill in, your brain will fill in the blanks. It's when I love the thing the most, because like right now we're having a conversation with their creator, and we are having different perspectives of what the thing is. And that's great. That is fantastic. And I love that about this film.
No, I think that's cool too. And I've had these conversations over the years with different people, usually in the comment section on YouTube. Sometimes not as pleasant, you know.
Yeah.
um, but no, overall the reaction to the show has been good. The only negative reactions we ever really get, and you guys are obviously sci-fi fans and independent indie guys, so going in that this is not going to be Star Wars or Alien, or in other
Yeah.
words, it's not $100 million movie, and so you have
Mhm.
to go in understanding that that is not the case. Not that we're as indie filmmakers we compete with Hollywood all the time, but in saying that, if you go in thinking you're going to watch this real high-end movie like Interstellar, you might be disappointed. In other words, from a production design or production value. But if you go in knowing, not to forgive the low budget, but if you go in knowing what you're getting, then I think you would enjoy it if you're looking at it from a story. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
yeah, and
No,
so the point is the only negative we get are people that may find it blindly. And I've never seen anything about Tubi, but people on Amazon, some people found it on Amazon, thought they were getting a show and I think most people liked it when they gave it a chance, but they thought they were getting a big Hollywood production, and it's not that.
Yeah.
Although
No,
I
you
still
were
think it
saying
looks pretty good, but
Yeah.
you were saying before that it's amazing that things get put together. Well, I think it's even more amazing that you can produce such a good movie on such a low budget.
Yeah.
I look at these budgets for these movies and they're like hundreds of millions of dollars, like $250 million. I'm like, and all you did was an hour and a half? Why is it so short? Where's the rest? Where's the backstory of these characters that you didn't put in? This amount of money you should, and you guys did it, for multiple times less, like 32 times less, and
yeah,
still told a
our
good story.
budget was not even a craft service budget on anything on on those movies. It's just not even in the same. But most indie projects, especially on YouTube and stuff and such back then, most of it's blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, you do have to pay people, of course, but you're getting favors, and this was a non-union show, so it helped with we didn't have to. It's not quite as expensive, but we still had great actors and great crew. But yeah, it's amazing what you can do for a low amount of money if you want to do it. It's a passion project in the end. That's really what it turned out to be. But yeah, so that's the only kind of negative responses we've ever gotten, and it's really those people aren't really our audience in the first place. So
Yeah.
Well, the passion definitely showed through.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And something that we say in this show to just you go in if you like, and I guess we have a different kind of audience, right? So you have to love sci-fi, number one, to be listening to the show, but you go in and follow the story, regardless of how the story is told. If it's good, if it is a good story, it's going to be a great experience altogether. And I think that's where most I don't know. I hear you talk about the negative comments, and for some reason I get, and it might be just my perspective. Those are people that are not passionate about sci-fi. That's what it sounds to me. But
yeah, I think that would be true.
yeah,
And again, I'm not trying to overemphasize that. I'm just saying, for the most part, people have been pretty receptive, even back in the day on YouTube, and then even today on Tubi. But I guess it's just about expectations. I guess that's probably more what it is. Most people that watch the show, if they give it a chance, they're like, "Wow, that's a good story. That's compelling characters." That's we want to. I mean, for the longest time, we want to. And I did write one. People wanted a sequel. I mean, a prequel or a sequel, and we actually wrote a prequel, and we were going to produce it. This was back in 2019, and our financing model just sort of didn't. It was going to be through Amazon, and it's what I was talking about earlier, where Amazon changed the way they pay. They used to pay really well for indie shows, and they switched their model. And so we were going to try to produce a show and make our money back that way, and it didn't work out. So I still have a prequel script, and I've actually toyed with the idea over the years of doing it either as a graphic novel or potentially doing it as an animated show, or I don't know yet. But it is interesting that today, with all the different speaking of AI, there's all kinds of different tools at our disposal now that can make, some of those tasks easier today than they would have been, less expensive, I guess is the way to look at it, just a few years ago. But yeah.
Awesome.
Anyway.
So just for the record, you heard it first at Science Fiction Remnant.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Nice.
Just let us know, because at least I can speak for myself when I say I am hungry for the story. I'm hungry for the
yes.
world. So if more of this world comes out, we'll be the first one to cover it.
No, absolutely. I'll definitely let you know.
Just make sure it has the awesome twists and turns like the original. I think
sure
that's what made this special. The awesome twists and turns.
Oh yeah, no, this
does.
This is a good one. This is a good one. They're not on a ship. This is a prequel before they got onto the ship. So it's what happens up to that. It's before they even met.
All right.
And so yeah, we may release that one day. I don't know.
Nice. So any other questions you guys might have before we let Blake exit?
I just figured one other thing that's come up since your production of this show, which would back up my idea of the pictures of the daughter and the little movie segment being falsified, is that now you can use AI applications to create images and video. That's basically deep faked.
Right.
And, being able to do that in 2025. Yeah. I don't know exactly when this is set, but I'm presuming that technology has improved since then. So that's what I was thinking, like the virus / program that she created has created this fake daughter, and that's why she couldn't remember her. And those videos and things were falsified.
Looking at it through the lens of 2025, I absolutely hear what you're saying. But in 2010, I never would. Well, I didn't think that.
Yeah. Well, no, we had no clue. We had no idea that.
I would love to have had a crystal ball, or, one of my favorite movies, speaking of sci-fi and Spielberg, is Minority Report. And I remember when they made that, they worked with futurists, or whatever the right word is, trying to imagine what the future would look like. And these were experts in the field. I don't really know how you get that job, but it sounds like a cool job. But
you have to think really hard.
Yeah, all the stuff with the screen and the hands moving and all that back in whenever that was, 2004 or 5 or 6. A lot of that came true.
Yeah.
Now we don't have pre-crime yet, but that may be coming in the future too. But the point is, we tried to have a retro future look. I never said when it was set. The only thing that we kind of give away a time at all is there's a one line where she says, he asked about HIV, and she says, or I can't remember if Tipton, or they say that's been cured for a long time. And so back, exactly.
Yeah, she asked about it, and he said when he had his memories that it's been cured for a long time.
Right.
But then he lost his memories after that. When they
were talking about which kind of virus. And of course, today, if you're making the show now, you'd probably talk about a pandemic or COVID or something,
Yeah.
But back then in 2010, I don't think we had. I think some of those HIV drugs had just been coming out that were helping suppress that. But nonetheless, that's the only thing that really sets a time period at all. And in my mind, it was, a couple hundred years potentially in the future. So,
well, I wasn't even convinced that they were from Earth, because they kept saying the home planet. They didn't say Earth.
Yeah, we did that on purpose for sure. We didn't want to say Earth. Sort of like some Star Trek mythology there, where they're, where the different people are from.
We were all hooked on this sci-fi anime called Astra Lost in Space.
Oh my God!
And it did a whole bunch of these sorts of flip-flop things where you're thinking that it's Earth. They're talking about the home planet being Earth, but it wasn't. It was a planet that they moved to because Earth became uninhabitable. And it wasn't mentioned until much later. And you're like, what?
Last episode.
That took me off of, I remember that.
and it's these sort of twists, like it relies on you making assumptions based on your world knowledge, and
Yeah, I mean, it's
and
like
then
the
you
twist at
break
the
that
end of
assumption.
yeah, exactly. It's like the twist at the end of Planet of the Apes. They were on Earth the whole time. So
Exactly.
I refer to that movie because I love that movie. But
Yeah, yeah. I still remember back, the original. Yeah, I'm Gen X as well, so
yeah.
You know,
I watched that as a little kid. That stuck with me a long time. And Close Encounters, all those movies, from the 70s and 60s.
Logan's Run.
Yeah, Logan's Run. I'm from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and that was shot in Fort Worth. So
Right.
Nice. I found out that there was a TV series to it, and it looked pretty good actually.
I watched the entire series, and I was in shock when people say it's not good, and they canceled it.
I think that is a tragedy, but I think that sci-fi is way too futuristic for the time that it comes out, and it's not appreciated. Because look at all of these great sci-fi movies, including this one, as shown as a movie, that are inspired by those great works of arts too.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely, for sure.
I mean, a lot of people complain about generative AI stealing stuff from other places, but nothing is created in a vacuum. And you've basically outlined to us, Blake, what your influences were, and even to the you have 30 seconds to reach safe distance.
Yeah.
And if you just whack a minimal in there, that's straight from Aliens.
It is from Aliens, or Alien too.
Yeah.
I mean, when
Yeah.
they're leaving the ship. Yeah. I mean, everything's a remix. I mean, everything Quentin Tarantino's ever done, while it's very original, he admits, I mean, everything is just from him, is just inspired by Sergio Leone or whatever he saw as a kid growing up, or whatever he saw at the video store, It's just it's the spin you put on it. And so yeah, there's definitely a debate about generative AI for sure. But I think in the end, human stories are going to be what you want to interact with, whether it's, and however you make them doesn't really matter in the end per se. It's how the audience and you relate to the characters and the story.
Yeah.
And AI, the only thing I will say about AI from what it's a good benefit right now from a post-production perspective for sure. I probably wouldn't use ChatGPT to write a script. Actually, I wouldn't. But as far as doing difficult things in post-production, like rotoscoping and that kind of thing, that would be, I mean, that's real tedious and manual and not fun. If AI can do that, I think that's a benefit. And I think there are some out there. And After Effects, I'm getting technical here, but After Effects, you can do some of that stuff now. But as far as making an entire movie on AI, I don't think I would want to do that. But I think the human touch is important. But I do
Yes.
like the idea of AI helping us doing mundane tasks that we don't want to do anyway, without
I
taking any job.
I heard great things about Leonardo da Vinci Resolve. Have you tried that one?
Yeah, DaVinci Resolve, sure. There's all kinds of cool things. That has AI all in it. After Effects
yes,
as well.
yes.
Just being able to mask out people, and half the time you don't even need a green screen anymore. You can go in there and just paint out the background.
Special
really
effects, holographics, and everything too. Like he has
Yeah.
great assets. Yeah.
It's really pretty crazy what you can do. And again, we didn't have that in 2010. So
No. That's very brand new. I don't think that DaVinci Resolve has even 5 years in the market.
well, it used to just be color grading only, and it used to be multi-million-dollars to actually use it. Back in the day.
That
But,
restrains
yeah.
the access to people that have good creative stories to tell, if you think about it.
Yeah, but now you can do a lot of that on your phone with like CapCut.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Your iPhone can shoot amazing video, and so it's really democratized filmmaking. That's for sure. A lot more people can make a movie now.
It's great.
Doesn't mean that it's going to be good or that you're going to like it, but a lot of people have access to it now. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, all of the technical wizardry aside of actually putting it on to video, but you've got to have the storytelling craft.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the get-go. And I don't think that AI can really do that well yet.
No, not in my opinion.
Same.
I mean, it can emulate. You can say write a script like Quentin Tarantino, but it doesn't mean it's going to do it or do it very well. And then, of course,
Yeah.
in the end, I think AI is going to be a great supplement. I'm talking about from a filmmaking perspective. I don't know about the real world, the rest of the world. That's a whole nother conversation. But
Yep.
I think it will be a good supplement to help with tedious tasks or things that you couldn't either do in the past or you really couldn't afford. But as a creation tool, I think that still is up to us as the filmmakers. At least I hope.
Absolutely. As an artist, I can say to myself, because I've heard a lot of things whenever I talk about AI, and I think that AI doesn't really threaten artists on its own. Because if you're authentic, there's no way that a computer can get inside your head and steal those ideas. Those are only yours. And AI itself is a tool, really. AI is not going to create anything unless I give it an input. And the more work we really put into it, the more humanity, the more editing whatever raw information is given and putting your touch to it is what's going to determine how refined of a product you can create out of it.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you. I do. We're just at the very cusp of all that, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And maybe bridging the thing that we're covering with the conversation that we're having, and that's something that I really appreciate on the film. I guess with the eyes of 2025, the computer. This is what we're looking at, how AI might be once we have the quantum computers that are actually now being used.
Yeah.
So once we bridge the quantum computers and AI together, it's going to be scary. And it's going to be something very, very close, if not the same as what we see in this film.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. It'll be wild. My kids will know, maybe they'll probably see it. I don't know. Maybe we will too. Who knows?
Oh yeah, I mean it's funny that you mentioned earlier about a lot of things that were sci-fi becoming truth, and we've spoken about this in previous episodes very much. And it is that most of the things that were stuff of science fiction are true. Like a phone where you have everything in your pocket. Like this is like Star Trek 101. Like they
Exactly.
had these kind of things already, and many other technologies that are fictitious, and we achieved them eventually.
No, exactly. That's what's kind of fun about sci-fi, exploring the unknown and the future that actually can come true, for better or worse. We don't want
Yep.
we don't want the Terminator part to come true.
Oh no, yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I'll pass on that one.
Hell no. Viva la EMP.
Yeah.
So speaking of exploring the future a bit more, Blake, have you got any other plans beyond that prequel that you've got in your back pocket for other sci-fi stories?
Not other sci-fi. The only thing I have that, if people go to the website, I have a brand new movie that's going to be released soon, and it has nothing to do with sci-fi, but it's a story that's a throwback story. It's a John Hughes style movie. It's called Casey Makes a Mixtape. And it's about a kid in the 1980s who has to go stay with her grandparents one summer she doesn't really want to. Her mom just dumps her there. She's going to Europe with a new boyfriend. And so she's there and having to adjust to a new life. And she's trying to record her last song on a mixtape, which, back then we actually had to record songs off the radio.
Oh,
So
yeah. I did a lot of that.
I went through that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's very much a John Hughes inspired film, and we're hoping that's going to be out in May, so not too far from now. April, May, maybe June. The movie's done, and we're talking to distributors now.
You got me at John.
What's that?
You got me at John. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I love those genre movies, from that genre of movie from back in the day, and it's set in 1981. I don't know if I said that or not. So, it is actually, it's a period piece, and we got some awesome nostalgia and music in the movie. So it's a lot of fun.
I was 12.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, making mixtapes in the 80s. So, I've done some other sci-fi. Trying to think what I've done I did a sci-fi short film called Home that's really great. As far as it stars Melanie is what I should say. It was a great experience, and it played some festivals. And you mentioned Dust earlier. I think were you mentioned? Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Dust picked it up. This was back in 2018 or 2019, I forget. And so it's on Dust if you're interested in a little 10-minute short film about a woman who thinks she's crazy and thinks she lives on another planet. Check it out. And
Nice,
it
nice.
stars Melanie. It's on
We're
YouTube.
always watching Dust. I think that Dust is trying to remediate the content imbalance that is in YouTube, and Dust to us is that kind of refuge where we know we can find quality indie source
Yeah.
movies that it's awesome because that's the way that you get new ideas. Like the indie industry has a lot to offer. So like for most of us, it is not attached to like Grammys or whatever or Golden Globe. We don't follow that really. The Hollywood. We follow the good quality movies, regardless of their where they're coming from.
Yeah, I always say I'm addicted to Dust.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll offline, I'll send you a link to the short just so if you want to check it out. So
Yes, please.
Yes, I'm very, very interested. And who knows? Maybe we can have you back.
yeah, absolutely. But that's my
Well,
next movie. And then other than that, I still make a lot of content for YouTube and such. I don't make web series anymore, but I run a filmmaking channel, and then I have another channel that does general filmmaking lifestyle stuff. And then I continue to try to get other movies made. It's a never-ending process, no matter how many you've made.
Awesome, awesome.
well, thank you so much for joining us, Blake. It's always wonderful when we can talk to a creator and find out all those little things that aren't quite so obvious in the show, and throw up our own, overthinking ideas about the show that we would discuss ad nauseum and not have an answer to. We can get one from the creator, so it's fantastic.
It's like a backstage pass. It's like a
Exactly.
backstage pass, man.
Exactly.
No, thanks
So
for having me. Thank you for having me. This is great. It was
It's
just
been an honor.
when I got the email from Robert, it was just kind of like, what? You want to talk about my show from 12 years ago? That's awesome.
Well, I mean, we go back into the 50s to watch sci-fi, so
No, that's great. And I love that because a lot of sci-fi today are shows and podcasts, I think, focus on new movies and such, which is great too. Don't get me wrong, but I love that you guys go back and look at stuff that, maybe not have been seen or not people don't know about. That's awesome.
well,
Absolutely.
a lot of those sci-fis, as you mentioned, 2 out of 3 of us are Gen X, and they were our formative years. We've got all that sort of classic golden age sci-fi in our heads, so we've got to get it out. We've got to talk about it, so we've got to
Exactly.
cover it.
That's great.
Awesome.
But thank you so much for joining us. There's the QR code to your website, Loud Pictures.
Yes, sir.
And we do hope to see you again with some more sci-fi. If you could make some more for us, we'd be very appreciative.
Absolutely. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you for coming on.
Awesome. This is a tremendous honor to be.
Yeah.
So, and you said it very well, Ray. We talk about shows, right? But it is something different when we have the creator join us to clear out. Because I mean, we could make assumptions. We are overthinkers here, so we can we can do.
Look, we've had arguments on stream, like literal arguments about what an ending meant or what this pivotal point in the story was actually saying, and to have the creator there to actually break the deadlock for us is really helpful.
One of the things that I say that I would have to appreciate, and I kind of alluded to this when I talked about how books are usually better because of that reason, is we had an actual discussion. I don't want to say argument because it wasn't really an argument, an actual discussion where we are all, including the creator, had a perspective of what we think that thing was. And I think I just want to mention this again. This is what makes this thing as good as it is, because it allows you to, it doesn't give you a concrete answer. It doesn't tell you this is this, right? It leaves it up to you to figure it out. And I mean, we all here, and I'm kind of curious to, I'm going to move on to my questions here because I'm still curious about your thoughts on this. But that's the reason why someone, that would watch this would have a different perspective than someone else, because, we don't live in each other's minds. We live in our own. So when you leave it up to someone, someone's imagination, someone's interpretation, um, it, I think that's the best way you can be invested in a story. And I don't know if you guys agree with that.
I do think that leaving some stuff to be pondered is part of the duty of science fiction. Not only does it keep you thinking about the property and what the property had to say longer than the time you spent watching it, but with overthinkers like us, I've spent months wondering and coming up with theories about things to do with sci-fi in the past. Like walking home from school when I was a kid going, what exactly was Obi-Wan meaning when he said that? It's just hours and hours of it.
And
you don't get like this in a week, boys and girls. It takes decades.
No. And many people might not realize, and you might be watching the show and listening to the show for a while now. You might be one of our season 1 listeners, and you might not have picked this up, and maybe we said it in an episode or two, but it's not something that we usually mention all the time. But that's basically the name of our show. It's science fiction remnant. These are the remnants of thought that are left behind for weeks, months, and sometimes years after we watch a thing, because we are overthinkers.
These are the 6-hour conversations that we have in between movies. I would rather bring it all to you guys.
Well, as you've said many times, guys, the whole concept of the pod came about because you would sit down to a 2-hour movie and it would take you 6.5 hours to watch it.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Now we pretty much are having those discussions in our Discord channel most of the time.
Yes, if you want to join, you can join in, and let's make it a 12-hour conversation. Be done.
Yes.
Because it's Discord, so it could be done that way. So I guess I was waiting because I wanted to take as much time as we can with the writer director Blake Calhoun. So I kind of left all the other stuff for later because I want to take advantage of his limited time, which we really really appreciate. But I guess going back to, and this is the question that I am the most curious about, which is typically the question that we ask at the beginning of the show, is how old were you when you watched the thing, and what was your first experience? So I am really curious. I don't know if we should go with Ray first because he watched it today, and then we can move on to Gio. You watched it a week ago, right? About a week ago. So I'm really curious. What was your first experience of this?
Well, I was nearly going to watch the episodic version on YouTube, and then I saw your extra notes on Notion saying, "Oh yeah, there's a movie version, and the writer director recommends that one over the episodic one." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I just went straight to the movie version, and as I mentioned to Blake there, that because it's an episodic storyline which has multiple cliffhangers to keep people coming back for the next episode the following week, it does have a somewhat unusual line of tension, if you want to call it that, in the storytelling, where rather than it going like this and just curving upwards to the climax, it sort of does this. It like bounces up and down. Things are happening and then they're not happening, and they're happening and then they're not happening. But I mean, it comes across more like a serialized thriller than like a sci-fi movie, and in that things keep happening to twist the story as it goes through. And I'm not saying it's terrible, it's just a little bit different. So it landed a little bit differently for me than most movies do, I think. But I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It was just unusual. And of course, some of the twists at the end were very, very good. So I was quite impressed. So yeah, that was my first take.
Nice. And I wanted to add to that is, I mean, we mostly watched the movie for this episode that we're recording today, but I really do want you guys to go back and watch the series so you have the full experience. For example, one of the cool things that I can take out of the many is the clever episode names that would come in through, and also the you were talking about the cliffhangers. It kind of would make sense more when you watch it episodically through YouTube. So we watched the Tubi version, but I really do want you guys to have the full experience and watch the YouTube version as well. Gio, what was your first experience?
Well, it was interesting because it kept me hooked. You know that I love Discord, and basically the AI is kind of like obvious about being deceptive and keeping them at odds completely. And it's like Blake did a great job at making the audience feel like it's right there at the screen. And it keeps it interesting all the way through because basically it has a great plot twist. And I think that even though it's separated episodes, it played out pretty well with the grand finale of like, oh shit, and then just wakes up. I think that he made a perfect cycle and find the perfect storm when he did that. And it's very original if you think about it. Like I said, the practical effects and everything about the ship stands through time. I think that he did a good job at that as well.
Awesome. It's kind of funny you mentioned that because this could be one of the few movies that you could put on repeat.
Yep.
And it works.
Yeah.
You could actually loop and it would work. It would work perfectly because that's exactly how it begins. It's exactly how it ends.
Yep.
So
It's true.
for me, I guess most Gen Xers would have the same experience back when YouTube was a new thing, and in my hunger for sci-fi, I would explore not necessarily YouTube. I would explore the web. Um, I found Yahoo had something too that they were trying to copy back then. Um, I think that's one of the series that I encounter in my search through the web on Yahoo would be another series that we cover in the show. It was Older Space. I don't know if you guys remember that. I really enjoyed the comedic effect of Older Space. But in my hunger for sci-fi, I would go out on the web, and this is how I discovered. In YouTube, there was a lot of back then. There was a lot of serialized. They call them web series, um, and I think YouTube was copying because there were like other avenues that would have web series, and I think YouTube back then was the one that would bring it home, right? Because of the way that they made it easy for creators to upload content. Um, and that's why YouTube started having so many web series, is because the ease that it was for creators, and people just moved on. Granted, they have their own website where they kept their own thing, um, but they actually brought it up to YouTube to have hopefully a wider audience. So that's actually my experience on YouTube, discovering new things. And when I discovered this one, it just piqued me from the very first minutes of the episode. Um, I found it, interesting and very addictive, should I say? To at least to me, the fact that we have this person waking up, and I mentioned this earlier, waking up in the ship, not knowing who they are and where they are. And that was fascinating to me, and that was a hook to me, because now, from the very first minutes of the very first episode, which there were, what, I think, 5 minutes. I might be wrong here, but the first minute that you see the interaction with the actress, I was hooked, because it's a sci-fi, and I want to know what happened now. I am vested, and it's kind of like what we go through, and I guess to try to explain my experience to you guys, it would be closer to when you're watching an anime that just released. And the very experience that I had. When you finish something, you're completely hooked. As you can see, it had big cliffhangers at the
I'm
end.
living, I'm living through that with a certain writer's book that I'm writing as he actually makes it. It's constantly traumatizing, I gotta say. It's rewarding when you get a new chapter, but it drives you to that terror of a cliff that is gonna have an end, and you don't want it to have an end. You want some kind of Alita, Battle Angel, Gumu comic situation going on.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's bad. It was it was. I think it's credit to the writing.
Yep.
I think it's credit to the writing, and the moment that I got to see, so the last episode on season 2, it was priceless. I was vested already, because the episode ended. Now I gotta wait a week for the next episode. Kind of like the same thing we go through in anime when we watch the new anime. And by the time you get to season 2, the very last episode, you're already vested into the story. And to me, it was one of those blow your mind moments. The very very first time that I watched this, when I watched the ending, and I alluded to this earlier on the show, when I said, after I finished watching the very last minute of the very last episode, I was like, hold on a minute, wait a second. And I go back to season 1, episode 1, and then go back to the last episode, and then this, it's a loop. It's amazing. And I think
It's a Mobius strip.
exactly. Exactly.
There's no beginning and there's no end.
Very few productions out there.
You know something that would take that idea, but it still has a different spin than this. I don't know if you've seen a game called Loop from Bethesda. It's in Game Pass, and basically it has a black guy and a woman on the other side. She looks Latina for some reason to me, like curly hair and a jacket, and the black guy has like a brown jacket, leather. And the game is about you trying to survive and go through the corridors, get weapons and stuff, and discover why you're there. And the woman is trying to kill you in every loop, and as soon as she kills you, you wake up in the same place again, and you only go finding out stuff as you die. And you try to get further and further.
It
And
sounds
kinda
like
take that vibe.
it sounds like a combination of ReZero and Day After Tomorrow.
The big thing is like in Loop, for example, different than here. Well, you could say that the AI takes that kind of position, same in the loophole. It's that the woman, every time that she's trying to kill you, she's pissed that you don't remember her. And you apparently did something very wrong because she's trying to constantly kill you and push you to go further in the next loop. So it's like I felt kind of like that from the AI. It's like the AI is the master here, and you are a prisoner of it because you don't know what level of reality you even are by the time of the movie or the series does the grand finale, which is waking up after the explosion. You know?
That's one of the things that I appreciate about this thing is the fact that you could be, as we watch these episodes, I get the feeling that I didn't know what was up and what was down.
Yep. Not only that, but also like in the narrative, Blake did a great job on creating a false sense of security because they're trying to like outsmart the AI, and then she wakes up and he tells her ready to try it again, and basically it's like there was no sense of security really. This all been watched. You don't even know is Tipton is actually a fabrication of it.
It was all
So many
lies. The
things.
AI could follow them in any room at any time, and was
Yeah.
watching everything.
No, but by the time that she
And
wakes
was
up,
following a script.
it even makes you wonder if like the guy is in the other room in cryosleep or anything. Like if it's being a fabrication, why she wants it to try it again. Like it makes you wonder.
That is the biggest cliffhanger to me. The
Yes.
fact that from the beginning she asked, "Is anybody else in the ship?" And the computer says no. And now she sees, as soon as I see Tipton on that bed, I was like, something is not right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, he's
And then-
dead. So it's
No. The
lying.
problem with the AI is it tries to be a smart ass and use semantics to get away from responsibility whenever she gets called out.
Sounds
if you
like
know
a certain chaos guy that I know who does that.
I try to have basis to my arguments, and usually when I lose them, I make sure I look pretty stupid, and I just drag it, and I make sure that you realize that at this point I'm just dragging you onto my stupidity, so I am not alone in there. But the AI, no.
Nice. There's I want more of this universe, right? And the reason why I'm saying this is,
I want an escape game of it in VR.
oh, that would be awesome. That would be awesome.
What did it?
The reason why I'm saying this is because I have questions. And obviously I know we're not going to get answers to that because this is something that, how Blake created it. And he might have some of the answers that I'm looking for in his prequel. But and I like to think that we will, if he ever creates that. But the reason why I'm saying is because apparently they're in a escape ship or escape pod. And there were other escape pods, which was evident from like what we see the
And other spacesuits too. Like she didn't need to go alone to the other ship, but AI made sure that was it.
exactly. So I want to know. I want to know what happened. I want to know. The big ship, the mothership that got destroyed. They kind
Not
of
only that, Robert. When you were talking about deepfakes, and I did tell you that I got heavy Ghost in the Shell concepts in there, because the moment that she tried to bring a daughter, it's like she's purposely recovering information slowly. Like this is such bullshit, Like we know that the computer at this point is manipulating, and the only ones that are going through that really is the humans. And basically, it's like she's trying to implant false memories in them, probably that are gonna determine how they're gonna act upon each other. Even that.
That was my take on it. It was a fake. It was a fake out. Because I couldn't see a mother not remembering everything but her daughter.
Yep. I think that they played that, even though it's a different IP, but they played that pretty well on ReZero when Ram goes to see Rem, and even though she doesn't know who the heck she is, she knows that they're related, that there's a close bonding between them. She cannot deny that. And I think that is the same thing there.
Yeah,
what you're trying to use. Yeah.
I always wonder too, like, is the reason that they lose their memory related to the loop, or is it purposely done by the computer? Because if that is the case, then yeah, Ray, you have a valid point there. Uh, they could be implanting false memories.
If you think about it, it's a very controversial way to infer that we are programmable, because if the AI wanted these outcomes and interaction to play it out this way, she had to feed them this information. So in a way, she's programming them. If you think about it, because when you look at it objectively, all the distrust that was put in between Reagan and Tipton was whatever the AI will feed them separately, alone.
Yeah.
Like even when she was on the ship, I don't know if you remember, but she was limiting whatever he was saying, and at some point he excommunicated him from her, and then giving command to see if he would do that.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole situation kind of felt like VR training to me. Like they were in a full dive scenario, and they were training both of them for an operation. Like it wasn't real at all. And
Yep.
and that's the sort of feel the final scene gave me, that this is all training.
You know, that has a very valid point there, because that would actually makes a lot of sense.
You know you can come up even with crazy ideas like these loops playing out faster, and basically she just testing the and gouging the extremes of it. She can go full cycle and kill the guy without even waking it up. She can try to pull some tricks on him. They can work out together perfectly to see if he actually plays out, and just look at all the possibilities of how they could finish in a scenario.
We don't know how long they have been doing this. Based on the comment on the last episode, you almost made it, Reagan. You know, it's like,
Yep.
how many times have they done this? I mean, you could play, like you said, different scenarios. There could have been one where she got the gun and shot out and exploded the ship, and back
Yep.
to square one again, you know?
Yep.
So
Pretty
this
much.
the great thing about the story is that, you know, any of these could actually be canon to this story
Yep.
because of the way that it was done.
Not only that, but it gives you the I would say false sense of security, or like the concept, the perception that when she wakes up at the end, she does remember everything now.
Yeah.
For some reason, that's what he felt when she wake up at the end. Is that it's not the same as the beginning of this movie, because now she does remember everything that happened on the previous loop. Because it says like good morning or something on a girly voice, but when she wakes up, it says, "Are you ready to try again?" So by you inferring "try again," she already knows then what happened and woke up from it.
Well, she might go back to sleep and wake up without memories again. Who knows?
Exactly.
True.
Anything's possible by the sounds of things.
It's terrifying to know that like her memory is being wiped completely, like on a regular basis, just for like until we put the right loophole on it.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of gave me the vibe of like Sword Art Online when he went in. What was it?
Rower. When when the aliens was being questioned and pushed for answers in the short movie, 5 minutes. Remember
Yes.
that kind of manipulation. That kind of manipulation is what I see on the AI, but in a more human form and still sophisticated way. It's that kind of manipulation on Reagan and Tipton, basically.
Yeah.
You know this AI, this virus that's running the escape pod, the escape ship. It gives me serious Skynet / Cacao vibes.
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
The whole I'm just going to manipulate humanity because I'm way better than them, and when I feel like it, they're all doomed. It's like shit.
It you know, it is kind of scary that And I know it wasn't the intention, of the writer, but it still amazes me. This was a quantum AI computer back in 2012.
How do you take it when she started explaining TikTok that she's the programmer and the complexities in a very simplified way of how the machine works? How do you feel at that point? I was like, wait, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
It was like, I mean, in my mind, it was like Blake grab the carpet under your feet and swoop it up. You're like, hey, what's happening here?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, definitely. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of glad that you guys enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed this web series. Um, I did notice though, and we didn't have too much time to discuss this. It was alluded early in the conversation. Um, I did notice, and I believe Ray, you noticed too. There was a difference between the recut version and the YouTube version that I'm familiar with. Um,
Well, I've only seen one of them, so I'll take your word for it.
but yeah, and when you do watch the YouTube series, the web series, you could do that in. I mean, the episodes. I think there were 5 minutes each. I did it in a day. It was very, very nice to be able to do that now, versus what I went through earlier, waiting a week for each one of these. Um, but it was there was a big difference in the quality of the visuals as well as the sound. Now, I guess I'll ask Gio because you've seen, you can compare between the two. Did you notice that as well? The YouTube, the Tubi versions versus the YouTube
Yeah,
version.
I got to see like 4 episodes on the YouTube version,
Mhm.
and they were pretty good actually. I think that was one of the things that kept the ups and down hooked on the audience on the full version. So much that even though he was talking about like cutting the whole intro song, they could have left like a fade in and fade out of the title of the episode, and it would have blended perfectly without really giving anybody anything more than feeling like it was a simple intermission in the same movie, you know.
Yeah.
But I think that it worked perfectly anyways because that's one of the main things that, as writing style, kept us hooked on the story. If you think about it, is there's a bunch of ups and downs. So much that you could even almost identify where an episode started and the other one goes in a good way.
It's very unique, and I know when Ray mentioned it's not a bad thing, and I agree with that statement. That it's
When
not
she
a,
goes almost by the end, like, oh, let's go and take a shower, I was like, this is a beginning or an end of an episode. And you should see it ending because it will be like, what? Okay, I gotta say now, what's gonna happen in the shower?
yeah. Yeah, it's
Harmony, clearly harmony.
but it even those scenes make me wonder, based on the conversation we were having earlier about the computer. I still feel that the computer was playing them by allowing them to feel that she wasn't watching slash listening to them in
Yeah,
certain times and certain.
of course.
Yeah.
It's that's the equivalent of what do you call it in Raw the movie persuasion protocol.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's how he did it indirectly if you think about it.
Yes.
And
Uh,
I mean, it has great like aha moments, like when she puts him to sleep because she's freaked the hell out. When she brings it back and she's guilty, it's like he's not remembering shit. That was like a karmic punishment right there for her poor decision making for giving into whatever AI was giving her. You know, everything played out so well.
I I think I want to.
And she being too eager, and she being too eager to like recognizing him as the past version that she remember, and he not recognizing any of it. It's like she became blind to all the information she got, and disregarded. Like you just wipe him out accidentally. He tells you that he doesn't remember anything, telling him it's not gonna change anything. And then when she goes for the proofs, They're all deleted.
Yeah. So it makes sense to me. But then again, this is again we talked about this. This is the beauty of the story. You could have your own decisions. You can have your own perspectives to what you think is going on in the story because it allows
Yep.
for that. As you heard the creator themselves here, he told us what was the intended what was the story intended to be. And it's amazing to me that we're having this conversation on many of the topics within this film. They are differ from the intention of the writer, and it still makes sense because of the way the story is told. So I guess unless do you have anything to say, Ray, before I move on to the next
No,
question?
no,
Okay.
I'm good.
Um, I guess I wanted to move on to the next question, and which is a question that we sometimes ask, sometimes we forget. Um, on this movie that we watched today, and by the way, to the listeners out there, if you ever watched or watch after I mentioned the TV series versus the Tubi version, join our Discord and let's have a conversation and see what your perspectives are on the difference in between the two. And also, I want to hear from you out there if you are one of the lucky ones like me that were able to experience this as it released back in 2012. So, the question that I want to ask, and you guys can take turns, is after watching this whole thing, do you have a scene or a concept that you were, and I kind of alluded to what mine was, which I think is might be very obvious. Is there's a scene or a moment in the film that just kind of like, wow, you were just, it's just wow. You want to go first? Okay.
Mine, like I mentioned before, was the moment that she confessed who she really was, the programmer. That was to me like get out of here. Like somebody just threw me in the airlock and just open it up. Because at that point, it's like everything became in question to me in the whole plot, everything. And then at the ending, when it happens, it's like this is perfect. This is just perfect. Just like you said, like it is crazy how you can find things that can play in a loop perfectly, and by the time that you're finishing the loop, it just jives in perfectly to just go back. It's difficult to create that naturally,
Yeah.
and this show did that.
Yeah. And again, that's basically my wow moment. And again, I alluded to this earlier, the fact that I got to the end and I realized that this was a loop, and uh, it was in my perception, it was a perfect loop.
As
I,
as a good audience, I can say to Blake, you have successfully bamboozled us with this plan. Definitely.
okay, Ray, do you have a moment or scene that was just wow to you when you watched this?
Reagan, you nearly made it. Are you ready to try again?
Oh my God. Oh,
That was like, okay, everything's changed. Shit.
oh my God.
I guess this is Blake's unanimous choice.
It's just amazing. It's a totally amazing uh show. And I wish that it's a I think honestly, and you guys let me know if you feel the same way as I do. Because again, I'm speaking from a nostalgic perspective, right? Because I have experienced this and I watch this occasionally throughout the years as well. But I feel that this is a crime that this doesn't have the exposure that it should have.
Sleeper. I think that this is Sleeper, a great sleeper movie.
Granted, is indie, right? And this typically happens with indie, but it is actually, in my opinion, a crime. This should have a lot more exposure in the sci-fi community that it actually has now. and I hope that if you out there are listening, and when you watch this, let us know if you agree with that statement. I'm really curious about that. But yeah, I think I agree when you say that sleeper. That's a very good term for that. I mean, I even went to Rotten Tomatoes. It doesn't have anything there either. It's just like no. To me, it's sad because this is good. This deserves a plot in the Wikipedia. This deserves some good ratings, not the typical ratings we're accustomed from Rotten Tomatoes. So yeah, that's I think that I hope that a lot more people are, especially if you're hungry for sci-fi, you go and watch this thing. Should we move on to the last question?
Yeah.
And okay, the question that we normally ask in this show at the end is, what is your last
Will you marry me?
perspective?
You can't. He's already married.
No,
I
no,
think
no.
he's
The
not
question,
allowed in
the question
Chicago.
that we asked before the end of the show is, Ray, is my chapter ready?
No, sorry. I gotta get
Another
back to
episode, guys. Another episode. But it's not worth it.
I'm writer's block. Give me a break.
Yeah. So if you're new to the show, the question that we ask at the end of the show is, what is your last impression of the film? Now, this might be hard to answer for this particular one because you guys only watched it, a couple of times. But I guess I could answer, and I kind of alluded to my answer with
And he
that.
might come as a shocker for you guys, but Robert does want more of this. He does.
Well, the question is, do you guys want more of this?
Hell yes.
So,
I want to know what's in that prequel script.
oh yes, yes.
See,
I think that is brilliant.
That unreleased material, and I'm saying this from the perspective of a writer of a novel that I haven't finished yet, but I know what's supposed to happen. I really want to spoil and tell Gio what's going to happen.
Do you want me? Do you want me to
spoil
become your
his
ghostwriter,
enjoyment.
Ray? So like, you just give me the plot information, and I just help you fill the gaps.
If only it was that easy. If only. But yeah, that unreleased material, he's got it in his back pocket, but nobody gets to see it unless he gets to make a movie on it. I'm like, oh,
Yes.
Yes.
it's languishing in his back pocket.
The privilege that I do have.
Yeah.
Okay, so who wants to go? I have a feeling that you guys want me to go last on answering this question.
Yeah, you can go last. You've got the most experience with it, so that makes sense.
So which one want to go?
Ray can go first. He's
All right.
watching less time than me.
Yep, that's right. I'm the noob. I am the noob.
You're the
Hashtag-
weakest
hashtag
chain
noob.
link.
Shut up. So, as I was watching this, I was sort of suffering from what Blake was outlining with the people expecting, Hollywood level production values in an indie movie. I was kind of feeling that sort of, it's a little bit flat and, looking a bit cardboardy and stuff like that. But I often find that you watch the thing, you're not so impressed to begin with, but as it moves forward and the story
You
progresses,
find yourself hooked on it. You're like, wait
yes,
a second.
exactly. It hooks you silently and sneakily and drags you along until you can no longer look away, and you've got to know, right? And that is one of the joys of a good indie movie, because of course there are bad indie movies. I've watched quite a number of bad indie movies, but a good indie movie, you're watching and you're going, it's not impressing me in the looks department. Some of the acting's a little bit flat. What the hell's going on here? Way, okay. What is this oh my god, okay, there's this, oh, there's that, what, huh? No, oh, huh? She, oh my god. And then eventually you get to the very end of it, you go, well, shit. And you're
Yep, pretty
thoroughly
much.
impressed. So,
Yep.
I mean, it's a roller coaster, much like how the story does this. Your appreciation does that as well. And in the end, you were glad that you spent the time. I mean, I've wanted an hour and a half back after watching some movies, but not this one. This one was great, and yeah, I think I'm going to watch the web version just to get the how it landed originally, to see those tricky little word plays on the titles of the episodes and things like that.
Oh yes.
But yeah, I really do appreciate, especially after speaking to Blake, the amount of homage he was paying,
Yes.
and how he incorporated his experiences growing up with sci-fi into this movie, and all the little tricks and tips and flips and flops and things he did with this labor of love. And it really was a labor of love, and having got to speak to him, which is a real honor,
Yes.
about this IP, I can appreciate it all the more. And I hope that our listeners, who hopefully have gone and watched this before we spoiled the crap out of it, you must know by now that's what we do. I hope that you can grow your appreciation of this IP based on what you found out about what they had to go through to make it, and how it was made on such a small budget, and what you got for the price. I mean, like, it's amazing what people can make on a shoestring compared to the multi-million dollar flops that they make in Hollywood.
Well, there
Yep.
have been a lot of films that we are planning to cover. There are a huge budget that we decide not to cover because either we all feel wasn't right for us to bash, or maybe one or two of us. So I understand that. It doesn't expand to just indie films.
No.
And that's impressive to me, that if you have a good story to tell, it technically doesn't matter how much you put into it. Because if it's going to be good, it's going to be good. So I agree with you, Ray, when you say that.
So yeah, this one was very surprising in a lot of ways, with the twists and turns, with the amount of good storytelling considering the budget. And talking to Blake was just a joy to find out, the behind the scenes, the backstage pass, as Gio put it, to find out all the cool stuff. And it really was an honor and a pleasure to get to speak to Blake. So like, I've had a good day.
Yeah, me too. Definitely. Okay, so I guess, is it Gio's turn?
Yep. It is. Man, this movie is like we said in the past already. It's one of those movies in perfect loop. I am definitely seeing myself watching it again, because it's one of those movies. The more you rewatch, the more you get out of it. I can easily understand what you say, Robert. That you always go back and watch at least once a year. Totally. And honestly, I think that it's a sleeper movie, because I think that like you guys said, it does perfect homage to a lot of big, great sci-fi movies, and it's very original story at the same time, very, very original. And I think that I've said in the past, there is so much you can do with good actors, but with your writing and the story you have to tell, that is the big percentage. And if you're able to do it properly, your resources don't have to be Hollywood style. I mean, one of my favorite movies is like maybe the director in a house with just dialogue, and it's a great movie. The budget was less than $5,000, you know. So like, really, when it comes to like big whoosh and a lot of big effects, if you don't have a great story to tell, they aren't worth much, really. At the end of the day, I think that this is a storytelling, or watch movies or consume any kind of media, and if it's done properly, you can actually give yourself the luxury of not having to be Hollywood style and still win over the hearts of the audience.
Awesome. Okay, so I guess that leaves me. Um, I would have to start by saying that I agree 100% of everything that was said by Ray and Gio. I am happy that you guys had a little sliver of the experience that I had and the joy that I had with this film. Um, this has a lot of nostalgia for me because it's one of those things that, and I don't know if I'm even expressing it correctly, but in your search, it's kind of like one of those jewels that you find when you're searching for something that they're happy discoveries. My experience was a lot different than yours was. Like I explained earlier, just something that I discovered, and I was watching online and waiting a week to the next episode. I would have to echo what Ray mentions at the beginning, because one of those moments for me, when you said about, is this quite right? Like when she goes to the bridge for the first time, I was like, okay, that's a lot of practical effects. Something's not quite right, and then the computer turns on, and I was, whoa, this is amazing. It just flipped it on me. And I think Gio had the same exact feeling when we were watching that episode when he's saying, like, there's a lot of
When I saw the bed, I already had that vibe on it.
exactly, exactly. So this is the kind of storytelling um, that I
And this is
absolutely
way before SpaceX. And when you look at the SpaceX ships, like the Falcon X, that's how they are. They are as simplistic and minimalistic as possible, and most of the things are voice command.
yeah.
And this was before it, right?
So I really love storytelling like this because what I mentioned earlier, it allows you to make your own decisions on what you're watching. And the way that it was created, for the most part, whatever your decision would be, it could be canon to the story because of, again, because of the way the story is created. I love stories like this ones that allow the viewer to make their own minds. And I think this is one of the success of this. Um, I did not know until I reached out to Blake that there was a Tubi version of this, and I was happily surprised um, because to of watching it because it was a recut version of what I'm experienced. So it was nice for me. It's kind of like having more of what I liked, and I think I'm gonna have. Obviously, it's a lot uh, convenient because it's all in one. But I would not stop watching the actual web series because of that's what feels home to me. Um, so if you are a sci-fi fan out there, and if by now you haven't watched this, I strongly suggest you watch at least the Tubi version and reach out to us and let us know if you agree with any of the comments that we have made on this show. I think this is a crime that this indie film has not had the exposure that it deserves. And if you watch this, if you like sci-fi, you most likely would agree with the statement, but I still want to hear about it. So this is a most watched. Um, it like Ray says, a labor of love, and it shows. It shows in the film. So I strongly recommend you watch this and reach out to us and let us know what was your last impression of the film. And of course, if you want to go and have the full experience, like we talked about, go and search it on YouTube and find season one and season two and experience it that way. and let us know what you think. And that is our last stop. So should we go to the next segment? Or?
Yep.
Okay, let's see.
The science and
Okay.
You'll have to forgive me if I stop responding for a moment. My headset's dropping out every now and
That's
again.
okay.
I think it's suffering from old age. Gets a lot of use. A lot of use. Okay, so science and sci-fi this week, a little bit tricksy because being a minimal budget show, there wasn't a lot of stuff beyond, like the funky controls and things that they had there, which, we've talked about holographic display technologies before. There is this keyboard that you can get, which is just like a little stick with a projector on the top on one side, and you point it at a clear space of bench and it'll project a keyboard, and if you type on that virtual keyboard, it actually picks up where your fingers are touching, relay that to the computer as key presses. So that's about as close as I've seen to like a holographic virtual interface before in the real world. But what I was going to go through this time around was, could a handgun destroy a spaceship? Because I thought that was fairly topical, given that it happened twice in this show. The first time that I know of. Yes, the first time was clearly to set a precedent. And the second time was Occam's pistol. Is it Occam pistol? Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Anyway, so I asked Google, would a spaceship blow up if holes were shot into the hull with a pistol? And Google's Gemini AI put this together for me. No, a spaceship would not typically blow up if shot with a pistol in the hull, as small holes created by pistol bullets would likely not be large enough to cause catastrophic breach or rapidly depressurize the spacecraft, especially considering the robust materials used in spacecraft construction. However, it would still create a significant leak and require immediate repairs to maintain the integrity of the vessel. Now, this is one of the things that has been outlined as sort of like the ticking clock, certainly in that role-playing game we played, about, why do they have hypersleep in spacecraft? It's to reduce oxygen demand and the demand for food requirements and CO2 scrubbing. Because with a limited environment like a spaceship, you've got limited amount of supplies, be they food, oxygen, water, what have you, and then you have to have systems to recycle all of that. And the more of that you're using, the more energy you're using up and the more supplies you're using up. So if you've got a long trip, then you really don't want to be awake for the whole thing because it's just not economical. Yeah. So that's one thing they didn't mention in this. These being escape ships from the mothership, they would have a limited amount of supplies on board, and it was never covered in any of the dialogue of the show that they were limited, so they couldn't be awake for a long period of time. In fact, the computer was saying, "I don't want you to go to sleep because I need your company, Mum." So that's basically what she was saying. So that really wasn't covered in the TV show. But getting back to this whole, if I shoot 3 holes in this hull, the ship's going to go kapooey. Now, if you happen to pick the right spot and like broke the containment on like a power source, like a nuclear battery or some sort of high pressurized gas that may or not be combustible, you might get an explosion. But I mean, even just shooting through a normal piece of hull, there may be power cables or gas piping or something like that in that wall that could cause some sort of not necessarily an explosion, but some sort of pressurized outbreak, which could cause more damage. But the chances of actually destroying a ship by shooting 3 holes in it, not so much. You can depressurize the ship slowly, which would then, suffocate you, because if you have a limited amount of oxygen, you don't want to be wasting any, like shooting it out the hull through little holes. But getting the ship to go kapooey like that with a pistol, not that, unless you shot it in a very specific spot. So I thought I'd bring that one up because to me it seemed a little convenient, but that was part of the story. Being a low budget show, they couldn't come up with anything fancy to push the story forward in that direction.
Like not wearing a helmet. And if you don't know what that is, go down the catalog and you'll find it.
FTL. Boys and girls, always remember, wear your helmet when you go into hyperspace.
Courtesy of Adam Stern. And brought to you by Carl Jung.
Wow, we're really mixing our IPs up today. Lots of homage.
Yeah.
So did you guys have anything you wanted to cover in science?
Not really. I mean, and I agree with you. I mean, this one it's an indie film, right? So it was one of those that I almost cut the segment off because I couldn't think of anything. I don't know about Gio, but I couldn't think of anything else.
I think that it gravitates more about the science of psychology, the way the manipulation is masterfully done, which is a very subjective science, really. There's many different school of thoughts, but if you look at it from an objective side, perfect execution of how proper manipulation can be done by just keeping 2 parties informed on separate reality.
Can I send her a message? No, you can't speak to her directly, but I can pass on a message.
and I mean, how it was manipulative at all ways in a very clear way, like not trying to follow a command just because she didn't call her Danielle. It's oh my god, yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Well, that would bring our discussion to a close on another episode of Science Fiction Remnant. Of course, the discussion never ends, really. We can discuss any IP at any time. Just jump on our Discord and you will find us there chatting away, joking away, talking about all sorts of bits and bobs to do with sci-fi. We'd love to have you over. We actually had 3 people join just the other day. That was exciting. We're hoping that they will get down and dirty talking to us about all sorts of science fiction, be it IPs that we know and love or something new, because we're always looking for something new. So join us on our Discord and talk to us about that. Now, you can join us if you're watching YouTube by just scanning that QR code right there on the screen. Over that way. Thank you. Pointing. Or if you're listening to the pod on your favorite podcatcher, Podchaser, you can go to our show notes and you will find a Discord invite there. If you're not part of the Discord communities, you will need to download either the app on your phone or tablet, or pick up the program on your PC or your Mac, and then you can quickly sign up. It's a free single sign up, and then you can use that invite link to join us on the Science Fiction Remnant Discord. We hope to see you there to continue that conversation. We do have a couple of websites. The first one is sciencefictionremnant.com. That is our main conduit for the latest released episode, and also our back catalogue that you can pick up there. And you can also pick up some short reads to do with science and science fiction and how things might work in the future. In fact, Robert has just released a Thinking Like a Galactic Citizen, which is the new article there. And that's a really interesting read. I checked that one out, edited it a little bit for him just to make it a little bit more understandable. And yeah, it's food for thought. I mean, not this week, not this year, but sometime soon, we will become galactic citizens. And thinking a little bit differently will help us out when that happens. We also have another website called...
I'm going to get a green girlfriend.
You want an alien girlfriend? I know the Earth girls don't appreciate you enough.
A blue girlfriend. A blue girlfriend. A blue
you want a
girlfriend.
blue one,
right, Robert?
Yeah, blue girls are better. I like blue head girls. Does that count? Anyway, this is sci-fi.
She had blue girls that give head, though.
Oh my God.
He had to go there. This is sci-fi.net is moving on. This is sci-fi.net is for the creators. So if you're a sci-fi creator out there and you would like to get in on the ground floor with this is sci-fi.net and have your new works touted around, please do join us on that website. And you too could be part of the growing community for this is sci-fi.net. We have a Substack, which is a system where you can either log into the website on your convenience or have it piped into your email, hot and ready. And that covers all sorts of stories and articles to do with science fiction. In fact, Robert's latest article about being a galactic citizen is available on the Substack there right now. So do join Substack if you are a Substack member already. Do sign up to the Science Fiction Reddit Substack and catch that one. Also, the nice X called Threads, which is part of Instagram, is where we get a lot of engagement these days. So if you want to head over and engage with us on another platform other than Discord, you can catch us on Threads and join the conversation there about new IPs or your favorite science fiction IP. We hope to see you there real soon now. Of course, creating a podcast is not free. Robert's covering the cost of that at the moment. But if you would like to help us cover those costs, be it, even as little as $1, we'd love to have that little bit of help. And you can help us through Buy Me a Coffee. So scan that QR code or jump into Buy Me a Coffee on the link in the show notes. And you too could help us out with the cost of the podcast because we hope that you find value in what we're doing here. You could also leave us a message on our hotline. The number is 1-305-563-6334. That's 1-305-563-6334. Drop the one off if you're in the continental United States. And you can leave us a message there talking about one of our episodes or your favorite IP, or just something you'd like to let us know about science fiction in general. And if you're willing, we will play that message in a future podcast and we will talk around it. So we hope to hear from you real soon now. Again, thank you for joining us. Check out our back catalogue for more fantastic IPs that we've already covered. Or if you've got a suggestion for us, jump on our Discord and let us know what that IP is and tell us all about it. And you too could come on the show like our guest did today and be our local area expert on that particular IP, because obviously if you like it that much, we'd like to find out about it too. So do join us.
Let's just have pointless arguments about it. I love those.
That's Gio's line. We'd rather have discussions, but he'll argue with you if you like. But do join us on our next episode of Science Fiction Remnant, where we'll be talking about another awesome sci-fi IP, because we love sci-fi. We know you love sci-fi because you're still here at the very end of the show. And we hope that you will catch our next episode of Science Fiction Remnant. Bye for now.